In 2015, particularly in December, the whole world kind of focused on the signing of the Climate Paris Agreement. What the plastic bag ban does is that it takes that environmental focus and it spreads it to the common man.
We believe, even though small, we have a responsibility to do our part to ensure that the carbon footprint is reduced in the entire world. When we decided to embark on this path of reducing our carbon footprint, we thought the greatest opportunity for us was the elimination of plastic bags in our environment. And we targeted specifically plastic bags that were being used in the supermarkets, which accounted for 90% of the plastics that's released in the environment of Antigua and Barbuda. So we realized that if we were going to win this battle, we'd have to get the importers on our side. The small retailers, because of the small volume of business, have less flexibility in their margins, and we didn't want to do anything. And by the way, this is one of the successes of the program. No supermarket bottom line was negatively impacted. Some of them actually improved their bottom line because they no longer have to buy plastic bags. And we wanted to give the smaller retailers a longer period to transition. And we're right now reviewing that phase of the program to determine whether or not we need to do a little more for them.
This legislation came in the form of a regulation. It's called the import provision, order of 2016, and this regulation was again put before the stakeholders for discussion and debate, and a date was agreed upon by which we will all agree not to import any plastic bags to start with. The t-shirt bags that are extensively used in supermarkets.
Step one was the announcement that the government was moving towards initiating a ban. Secondly, we invited the business owners, the external stakeholders, to come in to have a conversation. First conversation was to feel, to determine how amenable they would be to this exercise. After we did that and we got buy-in, we identified our internal stakeholders and we met with them. And that's where we came up with a game plan that would be best suited for this initiative. Once that was done, we brought back in the stakeholders, the external stakeholders, and we spoke to them and we explained to them what the process would be. Once they agreed to that, we went to Cabinet, we got Cabinet approval. Once Cabinet approved, we began two processes. We did one, determining whether it's legislation or regulation. Once we determined that it was a regulation because the legislation was already on the books, we started to work with the legal department to craft the regulation. Once that was done, we then had to have it gazetted. Once it was gazetted, we notified the different departments that would be affected, more specifically the Customs Department and also the Ministry of Finance. Once that was done, we sat back down for a last consultation with internal and external stakeholders to plan the initial launch of the bags. We had an ambitious timeline. First meeting was in June, and we wanted to implement the ban in January of the following year. Okay, and when we sat down with the stakeholders, they explained to us that it would actually take a little more time for them to be able to get everything in process. It takes about 3 to 9 months for the order of their plastic bags from time they order to shipping. And if they were going to do a 6 month turnaround, that they would need some additional time to phase out the plastic bags. So originally we wanted to implement January 1 with a full phasing out by the end of June 30th of the following year, which would have been this year, 2016. What we found closer to the time, because there were some internal hiccups, that we would require to move the implementation from January 1 to June 30th. And what the supermarket owners said to us, instead of doing a phase out, because they had already begun the phasing out process, we would just move the implementation and have a cutoff date on June 30th.
The ban on plastic bags is extremely important with regards to the environment. Because looking at plastic bags themselves, they don't truly ever break down. They just break down into tiny, tiny pieces of plastic. And these tiny pieces of plastic get washed into the sea. Fish eat them, larger fish eat them, and then we eat them.
We expect that a large percentage of that plastic will not be going to our sanitary landfill. Thus, we're going to have more space to accept very complicated waste, more space to place other waste types, and at the long run, it's going to be cheaper for us to operate our landfill.
So the campaign was called, basically, I'm making a difference, one bag at a time. What we found important about that tagline was that it spoke to how we can involve each person and how each person individually can make a difference in their environment just by making a difference with that one bag. When we considered how we were going to launch this campaign, we chose to couch it within the World Environment Day celebrations, which were very key to us because we wanted to explain to persons that this year we're planting 90,000 trees. This year we are moving towards renewable energy. This year we're going to have bike racks throughout Antigua and Barbuda. But also this year we're banning the plastic bags. I think that if any other island wanted to implement a plastic bag ban, that there are several things that they would need to consider. One of them is having clear messaging. Messaging that is simple to uptake and it's relevant to a wide number of stakeholders. I also think it's important to ensure that the discussions that you have throughout the media do not only cover the persons who are policymakers, but they also cover the responses of each person in society that's affected.
Embrace it, because at the end of the day, it's in your own self-interest, and let's not forget that we're all interconnected. And when I say we, I mean the inhabitants of this planet, not just the humans.
The costs of cleaning up at a later date are going to be enormous, and we may find ourselves in a situation where our revenues may not be even sufficient to take up that kind of a cleanup.
This is not a government issue. This is not a political issue. This is something that is important to the lives of all who live within a society.
It's our chance to make it right.
It's our chance to make things right.
Save our seas, our land, our lives.
Save our seas, our land, our lives.
Just this little change can make our country shine. Making a difference, making a difference. One bag at a time. One bag, one bag, one bag. One bag at a time. One bag, one bag, one bag. One bag at a time. One bag, one bag, one bag. One bag at a time. One bag, one bag, one bag. Just this little change can make our country shine. Making a difference, making a difference. One bag at a time.